I discovered my parents only adopted me for the check. My name is Alex. I'm 21, and I found out in the ugliest possible way that my parents didn't adopt me because they loved me. They did it for the check. I was 6 when they rescued me. At least, that's how they always told the story. I remember sitting in that cold office, feet not touching the floor, while this smiling couple leaned toward me with bright eyes. Karen and David. She smelled like vanilla lotion. He had kind eyes and a nervous laugh. They asked if I liked dogs, if I liked cartoons, if I wanted my own room. The social worker said things like forever family and new beginning, words that sounded like magic at that age. I clung to those words like a life raft. Before them, I had bounced between foster homes, trash bags for suitcases, learning very quickly not to get attached to anything or anyone. When the adoption went through a year later, they threw a party. There were balloons with my name on them, a cake that said, "Welcome home, Alex," and a bunch of relatives I didn't know hugging me and saying how lucky I was. My new grandma kept squeezing my cheeks and whispering that my parents had hearts of gold. I remember feeling this weird mix of gratitude and pressure, like they had done something huge for me, something I could never repay, and now I had to be worth it. Growing up, that feeling never really went away. Whenever I made a mistake, Karen would sigh dramatically and say, "After everything we've done for you?" If I got a B instead of an A, David would joke, "We didn't go through all that paperwork for you to be average." It was always half jokes, half daggers, but I told myself that was just how parents were. They had given me a home. I owed them my best. The first crack in the fantasy showed up when I was 13, and eavesdropping like any nosy teenager. Money had been tight for a while. I could tell from the arguments, the way bills piled on the counter, the sudden switch from name brands to generic everything. One night, I was in the hallway pretending to look for my headphones when I heard my name. Karen's voice, sharper than usual. "Well, if they cut Alex's subsidy, we're screwed." I froze. "Subsidy?" David muttered something I couldn't catch. Karen said, louder, "I'm serious, David. That check covers the mortgage top-up and the car. If they lower it because of his age, I don't know what we're going to do. We can't just keep bleeding money like this." I stood there with my back against the wall, heartbeat in my throat. I knew, vaguely, that the state gave money for foster kids, but I thought that all stopped once I was adopted. We had the framed certificate and everything. I'd shown it to friends like proof I finally belonged somewhere. Lying in bed that night, I replayed her words. "That check covers the mortgage. We can't keep bleeding money like this." I pushed the thought away. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe it was some old leftover thing. I didn't want to believe my existence was a line item in their budget. Kids make everything about themselves, but even then, some part of me knew that if I pulled that thread, the whole story I'd built about my life might unravel. So, I did what I'd learned to do as a kid. I ignored the bad feeling and tried to be extra good, extra helpful, extra quiet, extra grateful. The truth landed on me 5 years later because of a printer error. I was 18, about to start community college, living at home to save money. Karen asked me to print something from her email because you're faster with computers. I sat at the desk, opened her inbox, and there it was, a subject line that said, "Adoption Assistance Renewal, Alex M." Curiosity beat out caution. I clicked. The email was from the state, confirming the renewal of my adoption assistance payments until age 21, with a monthly amount that was more than I'd ever seen in my own account. Attached was a PDF showing they'd been getting some form of payment for me since the adoption was finalized. I dug deeper. Old emails, scanned documents, phrases like special needs subsidy, behavioral risk, hard to place child. That last one hit like a punch. Hard to place. Like I was a piece of furniture no one wanted in their living room. My chest felt tight. I remembered all the times they'd told the story of saving me, how they'd look at each other like heroes, how relatives would say, "You're saints for what you did." No one ever said I was a kid who deserved a family. It was always about their generosity. I printed what she needed, put everything back exactly how I found it, and went to my room with my mind spinning. That night at dinner, I tested something. I asked, "Hey, do adoptive parents ever get any kind of help from the state? Like, after the adoption?" Karen's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Why are you asking?" she said carefully. I shrugged. "Just curious. Someone mentioned it at school." She laughed, a little too loud. "No, honey. Once you're adopted, it's just like any other kid. No more checks, no more social workers. We took you in because we wanted you, not for some money." David nodded along without looking up. I stared at their faces and realized, for the first time, that they could lie to me without flinching. I didn't confront them right away. Instead, I collected evidence like I was building a case against my own life. Bank statements left on the counter showing regular deposits on the first of every month from state assistants. Comments from Karen like, "We can't afford that, we're not made of money," right after ordering new furniture. The way she'd get oddly tense when I mentioned wanting to move out after college. It all congealed into this heavy truth sitting in my chest. Yes, they clothed me, fed me, gave me a house, but my presence in that house was also paying the bills. It all exploded on my 19th birthday. We had a small dinner at home. No party, no big celebration, just the three of us and a store-bought cake. After we ate, I told them I'd been offered a chance to share an apartment near campus with a friend and that I was thinking about moving out the next semester. Karen's face tightened immediately. "Absolutely not," she said. "You're not ready. It's cheaper if you stay here. We need to be practical." David said nothing, just stared at his plate. Something in me snapped. "Cheaper for who?" I asked. "For you? Or for the state check you'd lose if I left?" The room went dead silent. Karen's eyes flicked to David, then back to me. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice had that brittle edge. I pulled out my phone and opened the PDF I'd saved months earlier. "Adoption assistance renewal," I read aloud. "Monthly subsidy amount. Number. Payment to Karen and David M. Effective until Alex's 21st birthday. Does that ring a bell?" Her face drained of color. David finally spoke. "Alex, it's not what you think." I laughed, angry tears already burning my eyes. "Really? Because it looks exactly like you've been getting paid to be my parents this entire time and then lying about it." What followed was a flood of excuses. They said it started as foster money and just continued. They said raising a kid is expensive. They said they deserved something for taking on the extra challenges of a traumatized child. Karen actually said, "We still chose you. Like, I should be grateful my trauma was profitable enough to justify their decision." I told them, I would have rather grown up poor with honest people than in a nice house built on a lie. I told them that if they'd just told me the truth from the beginning, that the state helped with costs, we could have talked about it. Instead, they turned it into a secret, into leverage, into, "After all we've done for you." I moved out 6 months later with a crappy car, a part-time job, and a dorm mattress on the floor of a tiny apartment. We're not fully estranged, but there's distance now. They still insist they loved me anyway, like love is something you tack on at the end of a transaction. I'm in therapy, untangling the idea that being chosen doesn't mean you're loved and that financial help doesn't automatically make people villains, but hiding it, weaponizing it, absolutely does. So here's my question for you. If you discovered your parents didn't just adopt you out of love, but also carefully kept quiet about the money they got for taking you in, money they then held over your head with every sacrifice speech, could you ever look at them the same way again? Or would every "we did our best for you" sound like a receipt being quietly stapled to your childhood?